Good morning, my outstanding friends. Going to be a lot of fun today. We're going to be visiting Bennu, which is the asteroid that they just went out and took a sample from the surface, returned it to Earth. I am quite certain of what that analysis will be, and they are analyzing it right now and asking if anyone has any questions. Well, I do. And here's my questions, and here's why I feel very confident that I am capable of asking these questions, and we deserve an answer because we paid for all this research as the American citizens. We sent out this space probe, and now we want to know what it contains. And I believe I know exactly what it contains, and I will give you that right now. Okay, this is shocking but true. This is a spacecraft that went out and landed on Comet or Asteroid Bennu. The spacecraft's arm sunk almost a half a meter beneath the surface. So that's like they went in and they said it's just like dust. They had no idea. They thought it was just going to bang and pop right out, but it hit all of this dust. All right, it says it went far deeper than expected, confirming the Bennu's surface is incredibly weak. Well, I wonder why. All right, here's the really cool part. 16 seconds after it made contact, they popped right back off because they grabbed a sample. Well, in addition, they got a whole bunch of this scraps because there was so much extra debris, and they brought that back. That's what I want them to analyze for my examination. Now, they estimate that OSIRIS-REx, which is this lander, had collected a handful of material, which in a capsule so that it's contained and not biologically can be invaded. And then all this other stuff came along with it, just accidentally. It picked up roughly 6 tons of loose rock and just spewed it out. But it collected a handful of material, brought it back. That's what we're looking at. Okay, my friends, if you've ever heard of the show called Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, well, this is Monsieur Roget's neighborhood. Is in physics and the periodic table and subatomic particles and the relationship between biology and chemistry. All right? This is the first look at Bennu. They are going to be looking at to say what is in this particular 4.5 billion year old asteroid. They went up in 2016. All right, and they just came back just a few months ago, September 24th, 2023. They came back with a capsule containing the asteroid contents, which I just spoke about. But in addition, they got a whole bunch of extra stuff. So they said, well, we're going to look at the extra samples. Okay, now pay close attention to this, because we as taxpayers have paid billions and billions and billions of dollars, and we deserve some answers. I don't think anybody questioned that. Now, this is Eurofins, which is a company that apparently it has some of this stuff, it sounds to me, which came back from the asteroid. It says, now that it's back on Earth, of course, the next question is, what is in the sample? This is where materials analysis plays a major role. Yes, you're going to analyze that material, obviously. It's cool to know that some of the analytical techniques available at EAG, such as scanning electron microscopy, X-ray diffraction, are being used to analyze samples from space. How awesome is that? It's fabulous and absolutely amazing. Now, I have, a telescoping microscope, but it's not anything, I don't have any of this stuff. So, but I'm going to tell you right now, I know exactly what this is, and I'm going to be able to present them, and I already have, with my chemical analysis from a distance, because I know what it is already, as I will show you. So they're going to say, a quick look research will utilize all of these special instruments they have and tell us what is in these minerals and their proportions. It says the X-ray diffraction sensitive to the different minerals. That's what I want to know in the sample, and we'll give an inventory of the minerals and perhaps an indication of their proportions. Yes, I've already done that. I didn't even have to see it. Okay, from what I can find out about this company, this Eurofins, it appears that they know what they're doing. And they've been doing this for quite some time, and they have all the tools. And they apparently have the stuff that came from Bennu. So they took quick look analysis, collecting images from a scanning microscope, scanning electron microscope, very advanced, infrared measurements, X-ray diffraction, chemical element analysis, X-ray computed tomography, also used to produce a 3D computer model of one of the particles. I'd love to see that, and I'd love to see what the results of this was. And it highlighting its diverse interior. And I can show you what, I have something here that will be, I believe, exactly the same. This early glimpse provided evidence of abundant carbon and water in the sample. Now, I studied Comet 67P, and they put a Philae lander on there, the European Space Agency, and they did a spectral analysis, which is basically the same thing they're talking about there, on that. And they found out, yes, it's all biological. They call it organic, but I call it biological. And it is biological. And when that sunk 3 feet or a foot and a half deep into Bennu, it was going through a pile of basically blood, which is dried blood. All right, we'll get into the fine details in a moment, but this is a heart. These are the valves of the heart, and they have exact same valves on not only Psyche, Psyche is here, which had smelted to a degree, and this is like all surface metals, basically. Bennu did not smelt, but it still has the same heart valves. They are hearts, and they're in space, and so was Comet 67P. It's not a heart, it's a hip joint. All right, these things, there it is right there, it's a hip joint. Can you see that? I'm telling you, this is crazy, but it's true. Now, and if somebody wants truth, they want truth. And we're taxpayers. We're paying billions of dollars for some truth, and let's get the truth. And let's find out what this is. And I can tell you right now, I've already given them the list of materials they're going to find, because it's blood. Now, it could be the vein side, it could be the artery side, or it could be the lymph. So there's 3 different types of blood they're going to have to take into account, because they have different varying amounts of minerals and metals in them, because they have transitioned. One has an extra oxygen, Fe2O2, goes to Fe2O3 in the artery, and it's Fe2O2 in the vein, and a lot of the other, in the lymph, it's going to be different. Well, here's a heart right here. It was found here on Earth, in a rock. Smacked it open. My friend Phil Harris, unfortunately Phil passed away, but before this I had a lot of contact with him, and we discussed this. He went out, I gave him a 15-minute challenge. I said, you go out and see if you can find something that looks strange, see if you can open it up and see what you find. Sure enough, he found this. Within 15 minutes, he freaked out. He saw that red spot, he whacked it with a hammer and split right across the top. Now, that is the artery side, which is the heavily red, which has the extra oxygen, and that oxygen is going to go away, and it's going to turn black. I'll show you in a second. This is the lymph part, and this is the vein-ish area. Now, here's after an hour or so. Where'd it go? Here it is here. All right, remember that was red as red could be? Well, it's just a little bit of red left, and it's taken on, or it's giving up oxygen. So it becomes Fe2O2 instead of Fe2O3. That's the difference between the coloration. You see it? And this right here is the lymph part. And these are just the valves that are in the heart. These are all the different tubing that goes inside of a heart. And the rocks can do this very easily. I have tons of them with blood coming out of them. And I've had them DNA tested and CAT scanned and everything else. So don't forget, this is a heart. That's a heart. This is a heart. And here's where they landed. And I believe this is not too far off from the actual colors. Now, the coloration here must have been from the, impact site. Brighter blue is a more powerful color than the red and the black, obviously. You see these colors here? Hold on. Let me turn these lights off so I can get a little better light. Hold on. All right, I'm going to show you what I have here. Remember the black, the red, and the yellow? Well, that's what's in the heart. In here, this is just, they're right in, I believe they were in a valve. And this is just nothing more than blood. It's going to erode and all the little dusty blood will be down in there. And that's why it sunk so deep in and kicked up so much stuff. And don't forget, remember these colors. And here they are right in Phil's heart, right there. There's the same colors. All right, and I'm going to show you in a microscope, I have a meteorite here that has these same colors in it, and it has the same blood in it, and it's because it was a lung, and I'll show you that in a second. Everything's different than we were told, trust me, way different. Now this is a hip joint, and they fracture here, they fracture there, there's a bunch of little spots they fracture, but this is the ball and the chunk that's hanging off it, and that's Comet 67P. Here it is right here. It's the same part. And that's the neck, and it comes up to the hip joint. This is gigantic. I mean, absolutely stunningly huge. All right, here it is on top of Raleigh, North Carolina. All right. Not a good day to be at Raleigh. Look at the size of that thing. And of course, that's where the bone came out. Now, so that's 67P. Now, what else can I show you 67P to prove what I'm saying? You see that? This goes back to 2015, and I contacted all the agencies about this, and not a single response. And I doubt if anything will happen now either, because I've been showing this for 10 years. Well, since 2015. And other stuff for years before that. Because as far as I could determine, it's nothing but biology. And this freaks everybody out. I know it's a hard thing to accept, but until you want your mind into the world of reality, then you're just walking around in circles, spending billions of dollars to just deny reality. That's the artery. These are blood vessels sticking out. Everywhere the blood supplies tissue, which is everywhere, you're going to have a little tiny tube of blood. When the sun hits it just right, it cooks it just like on your gas grill. That's why they don't start smoking until they get close to the sun. This is nothing more than biology gases. And they did test these gases, and they are biological. All right, and here was the test. Ferrous oxides, that's blood. Carbon, hydrocarbons, hydrogen, carbon, sodium, silicon, and there's going to be also a lot of phosphates up there, because that's what lines all your everything. And before, when I show you these colors here, whenever you see colors, it's transition metals. Well, not every time, but they form basically the background of colors to everything because of these oxidation states. And they link to all kinds of other things, and they are the things that transition things through your body so they can pick up and deliver stuff. That's, if you don't have these, and these are the kind of things I'm talking about right here. Right here, hold on. You see, right there. This is what I told them. I said, this is what you're going to find up on 67P. And the reason is because this is blood. There's 26 elements in the blood they were looking for, and these were the elements. Now, in addition to that, there's, the carbon and iron. I mean, tons of that. And they had showed this. They did the blood, the serum, and plasma, I think. Hold on. So here's the whole blood. This is everything. Now, I don't know where they were on that heart, so it's going to be different here or there. But here's all the different stuff, and here's all the different, what they are and how the quantities and everything. This is what should be in your blood. And as far as I'm concerned, it should be in that blood too. This one here is the plasma. And here's all the stuff for the plasma. Same thing, one or the other, or it could be the serum. I think down here we have the serum too. Serum whole blood results. And these are all the different measurements in that. Now, they could have a mix of all these things, but, we got some pretty serious chemistry going on here. And that's, I get deep, so don't tell me I'm just making things up. All right, as I showed you, that's Bennu, the one they brought the sample back from. Same as Psyche, only Psyche there got too close to something real hot and it smelted it. And I know about smelting, which is you have to get something over about close to 3,000 degrees in that area before it starts to gassing off all the cheap stuff. I call it the cheap stuff. It's the very weak stuff that burns off, and you end up with metals. And it just vaporizes. Now, so that had to get next to something really hot, because it's the same valves and all that, and it's got even the same tubes and everything sticking out of it, just like Psyche. I mean, well, this is Psyche, just like Bennu. You see that? That's some kind of a valve right there. You know, and they had a whole ton. Well, here's the anatomical. All right, there's a whole ton of tubes coming in and out of here, and this is the main spot right here. It breaks right off, just like the one that Phil had. They break right off here, and then you can see right into the valves. So it breaks basically right off here, and this red stuff went away, and this tubing stuff went away, and now we'd be looking down into these tube valves, and valves can one go this way and one go that way. That's the way they work. They only let in or out. That's what the valves do. But this is weak stuff here. Well, it's not weak. It's tough, but it's flexible. So your heart can jiggle around. You get banged with these guys doing football and all that stuff. That's a pretty serious shock to this tubing. I mean, there's a lot of tubing going on here. So it's very interesting the way it's glued on there. It's just like glued right across there. I mean, serious. It's just crazy. But the tubes come off, and all of this stuff came off too from Bennu, and all you have left is this white stuff, and then of course down to the heart muscle, which changes. You'll see the white stuff, and then you'll see the heart muscle, and in the white stuff you'll see sticking down fibers. They come around, they wrap down, and the tips of the fibers go in and wrap and solid and hold, so the muscle can contract. And this is the little tiny give spot, so that it doesn't rip out of your heart when you really get thumping like crazy. This takes the impact just a little bit. The muscle does all that. This gives you just enough so it doesn't rip out of your body. I mean, it's stunning, stunning, stunning when you start to study the biology of creatures. It's absolutely stunning. All right, this I showed you was where that white stuff was. It comes up and wraps around, and all these little fibers. I don't know if you can see them or not. You see these little tiny fibers? Those are tendon fibers. They wrap in and they secure the muscle. And then the muscle is out here, there's red and so forth. Out here is the muscle. Now, these are the vein valves. And then these are tubes. Look, that's a tube. It's not a crater, it's a tube sticking out. And there's another one down here. You see that? It's not a crater. And that's not a crater. It's a tube. These are hearts. And this was where all that gooey stuff was. It wraps around and holds the tubes. The tubes are gone and the gooey stuff is gone. And you're now looking right into the valves, which is precisely what you see here. Where are my valves? Here they are right here. This is what you see in here. All right, and one of them is going to be a little bit different color because that's pulmonary valve. Well, I believe it's got something to do with the lymph and the vein blood, because here it is in Phil's heart. Right there, you see it? That's the heart cut right across. These were where the main chambers are here. And then there's some other little ones. And then this one here is that blue looking one, which is, I believe that's lymph. And I believe this area, right in this area here somewhere, is where your vein blood moves, only one direction. And this was real red, as I showed you before, until it just changed due to deoxygenation. Here it was here before. The yellow didn't change. This didn't change. This, for some reason, gave up its oxygen. And that's what happens. When it gives up oxygen, it turns blackish. All right, so I discovered mud fossils. I studied them for 15 years now. I know exactly what I'm talking about. So right there is an iron meteorite. They would call it iron. It's a metal meteorite. Came through space. So is that one. That's the Willamette meteorite. Well, guess what? This one right here, I believe, was from a liver. And that right there is red blood inside of a metal meteorite. And this is the black blood, all right, which is a vein and artery. And that's, I believe, from a liver. I can't find anything that is not biological. This one right here is a lung. All right, and you can actually see some blood still in there right down here. And this is the same sort of thing right here. It's a lung. This one didn't come through space, but this one here is still saturated with red blood. Now, if you can see right where the cursor is there, hold on. You see that red spot right there? That's like a little alveoli passageway that ran into the lung. That's a lung, which is primarily loaded with these metals that I'm talking about. And the reason you see all those different crystallization patterns is because these are all the different metals. Those are all the different metals. The ones that I showed that I'm asking about this quick analysis. I'd like to see what they did find. And then we're going to go all over this stuff really deeply, because if anybody can tell me I'm wrong, I want to know. I want to know why I'm wrong. And I also have iron meteorites here. Right? This is a little tiny lung. I'm telling you, so the stuff was big, it was small. This is a bone that smelted off coming through space. And what's left is the blood that boiled out of it and turned into iron. Just that little tiny bit, and it's blood just turns into the iron. It turns into iron, and it becomes attractive to magnets, and that's what this is. Anytime you have a lung or a heart or a liver, primarily those turn into your metal meteorites, and these would too. All right, if this came in and it didn't explode, it would just turn into metal, just like Psyche has already almost. It's pretty metallized, the surface. Inside, I'm sure it's still very raw. But wherever it gets exposed, just like this one right here. All right, that's the metal. I don't know if you can see that well. But all that was blood. It was inside of a bone. That's a bone. And inside that bone was the marrow and all the really bloody stuff. And it turned into metal, iron, as it came through space. And that's the only part that's magnetic. This isn't magnetic, obviously. There's no blood to turn into metal. Iron is blood. Blood is iron, basically. I don't know exactly the percentage. A lot. Almost all of it's blood. Let's just go with that. Okay, this is what we would call a stony meteorite. It came through space. And what happened here? Why did that happen? It blew off. This was just exactly like this side and squared off at the bottom and was biology. You see that right there? That was a tendon, and the other tendon was here. Exploded out because this is where the artery red blood was. It came through and exploded because it had red blood in it. This came through and smelted because it had red blood, and it was a bone and exploded because the red blood expanded and exploded the bone. The rest was just the bone left over. This is basically the same thing. Everything burnt off the fleshy stuff and left the central core, which is really, it's very interesting the way these things are built. And this side right here, if you can see that little circle right there, that's where the vein, and that's where the vein was. On this side, it's the artery and artery. The artery sides explode because just like that exploded, it's just exploding right out of there. Because that's where the red blood is. The vein blood doesn't explode. Now, I have other stuff. I'm going to be putting them in the microscope. I don't see spending too much more time on this now. If I haven't convinced you by now that these things are biological, I don't know what I can do to convince you. It's just, you just have to just open your mind and think. That's a hip joint. That's a hip joint. And they landed right down in here and took a sample out of there. And I showed you the spectral analysis of it right here. This is iron oxides, all the different states of iron oxides, which is the breathing. You breathe, and some of it's got more oxygen than the other parts. And I've shown everything. I don't have to. I don't see why I have to keep doing this over and over and over, and nobody will talk to me. This is 40 meters wide here. I figured this thing to be almost 500 feet across. That is the artery, 500 feet across, an artery of a hip joint. And they said there was creatures and battles in the heavens. I'm just telling you what was written and what I'm seeing. And there's no question whatsoever what I'm seeing was exactly what was written. Because coming up on this comet here, let me show you this. You see these straps right here? Those are tendons. This is the socket, the ball, and this is all the debris that ran off. This bundle right here is another tendon that runs off. There's ones that go this way, ones that go that way, so that your hip can sort of twist and do this and that. And these are the tendons, and they're very short because there's a very short distance there. Now I think I show the actual. Here it is right here. You see, these are those little tendonish things. So there's the ball comes out of the hip, and then there's these bundles coming off to the side, and some straight up and down, and it just fractured right across here. And these creatures were absolutely enormous. And that's exactly what was written in the ancient texts. And they took them all out of the ancient texts because they were just too spectacular for anybody to accept. But now here's the evidence. This is not any speculation anymore. This is not just theory anymore. This isn't just belief anymore. This is factual evidence. Now we have a whole different mental attitude because we're so brainwashed to believe that this can't possibly be true. That people still, mostly it's all PhDs. They just can't accept it. So let's see what happens now. If you don't know what you just saw, and you can't accept what you just saw, or at least question what you just saw, then you have a problem with your mind. You have been brainwashed, and truth means nothing to you anymore. I have to be able to present this evidence, to have it seen, or it's just hidden. And it has been hidden by academia. Right now it is hidden. I have approached all the major universities, NASA, JPL, Fermi Labs. I even took a course at University of Geneva so I could show them the light research we did. Nobody wants to know anything about anything. All of the biological, I took a course at Johns Hopkins. I told them all about this stuff. They dismissed me as an idiot without even looking. Within 8 minutes, that was the end of it. I was never allowed to speak again. And that's the way, I don't know if I was never allowed to speak again. I could speak all I want, but that was it. It was end of story for me. Now, this is what we're up against. If you can accept reality, well, you're in the right place. All right, this Bennu. There's the colors, and what you're looking at Bennu. This is my little iron meteorite right here in my microscope. You see the colors there? It's like a rainbow. You see it? I got it wet. Wet brings everything out good. They hydrate very quickly. But this is that lung. This is the surface of that lung. And those little black and white black is where the pleura cooked off and left some of the white fibers. I have a lung here. Hold on. All right, this lung right here has been DNA tested and CAT scanned and everything else. And this is the same kind of pleura. You see that fabric looking stuff? That white looking fibers? And that's where the blood was. I drilled in here and took a sample out of there, drilled inside, not scraped off the surface, and had it tested, and it's human. And whoops, I just showed you that fabric, and this is the same thing up here. You see the fabric up there? Same thing. Only that one there is blacked off underneath. The other one is reddish under it. Hold on. That's turned black because it's cooked. The other one is red underneath. You see it? This one here is red, and that one, but it has the same fibers. That just turned black as it cooked. Now, I'm going to get deep into this, and I don't know what else to do other than to just keep showing what I'm showing. And I know this is a lung because it has a little latch on the bottom, which all lungs do. And I've shown this many times. Well, let me focus in one time and I'll show you. All right, this is that little iron lung. This is the latch. You see this? I'm going to do this by hand, so it's going to jiggle around a little bit. But you see that little tab right there? That right there is a special little piece that's on every organ that attaches it to the next organ. I call this the spur lock. And it locks organs into other organs. And that is on this iron meteorite. And I have other shots of it on other body parts. All right, I've shown you the latch that's on this little iron lung here. And this rock right here is basically a piece of meat. And it has a latch on it, which held it, just like this thing here is held in. This latch is the same thing, you see? This is the same latch I showed you, only it didn't turn red like it did on a lung. This is in meat. This is a really strong, rubbery attachment, and then they can break, and that's what happened here. It got ripped. You see it? It's the same attachment. Oops! Only this one ripped. All right, and this creates the interstitial highway, which there's like tubes that run all through your body, all these fluid-filled highways. And I discovered these in mud fossils. They're all over the place. And it's now called the fluid-filled highway interstitium. Now, it's quite obvious that's a piece of meat, and that's the same as this. Now, is that a separate type of organ? I talked to an anatomist who was one of the top people in the world, and he said they've always considered it just fascia. Well, it isn't. It's actually a separate type of material. And here's another little lung. Here's a lung that's terrestrial. Hold on, I've got it soaking in water. Now, I showed you the other lung that came through space, which is this one, and I showed you the one that was the giant iron meteorite one here. It's that one. Now, this is a lung that did not come through space. All right, and that's a lung. That's where the entryway. Here's that little lock. Here's a little spur lock on the bottom. You see it? I'm going to put it under the microscope. You'll be able to see it. But I just soaked this. Now, these are all little alveoli in this. All these little dots. This is not a concretion. It's just added together by itself. This is a lung. And that's where the tubing goes into the lung. What kind of creature it was, who can say? But it's from terrestrial. It's going to be a chipmunk. I have no idea. This is your little idea. And of course I showed you this. That's a lung. And this one was in a different condition than this one. And it just, the blood ran out of the alveoli. So something invaded the alveoli skin, basically the pleura. And they come in all different types. This is another lung here. I don't know what this is from either, but this is what a lung looks like, and this is the plumbing that went in here, and it fills in with silicates, and they all died at the same time, and they all have like one flat side, basically. And it goes on and on and on and on. So I would say it's time to take this seriously, my friends. Billions and billions of dollars to go out and look at this, and I think my stuff deserves an examination. I'm sure many of my tax dollars have gone into this. And anybody that doesn't see what they could see, I mean, these are tubes coming out of it. These are valves, tendon, muscle, blood, brought back to Earth, can easily be sampled right now. And they claim that's what they do. at this lab. And I've tried to contact them. Let's see what happens. I'm going to keep you guys well informed, because I've never had any responses from anybody. And you know, it's funny they show this, aluminum silicate and phosphates, because this is what happens is the phosphate, which is the membranes, the phospholipid membranes, they cook down to aluminum silicates. In the Great Flood, that's what happened. The phospholipid bilayers cook down into aluminum silicates, which is feldspar. Feldspar coats virtually everything. Feldspar is a coating of almost every rock there is. They say to find a rock without feldspar is unusual and rare. Now, don't forget, I have giant creature body parts that are DNA tested and CAT scanned and all the rest. These things were real, they talked about, and the giants in the heavens had to have battles to have these creatures this big. This is a hair follicle. Right there is where the sebaceous gland attaches. Right there. All right, the hair shaft comes up the top here. This is the sebaceous gland. You see it? Exactly where they're supposed to be. This is the shaft coming down to the very bottom, and those two little dots there. I don't know if you can see them or not. This one here and this one here are the vein and the artery. Now this is completely transitioned. It's called nucleophilic invasion. So whatever the chemistry was, invaded it and made it preserve in this exceptional manner. All right, now I'd love to have somebody with these kind of expertise, like this place that's doing the Bennu analysis, look at some of my stuff, and even like this. This is a new species as far as I'm concerned. All right, it looks like a shoe, but it isn't. It's part of the body of the creature. I'm almost 100% certain. And it had a bone just like ours, the tibia that comes down, the main bone right here. And it cradled in this back right here so that it could rock. And this is where the fibula came down on the side. They attach right together. This one falls right off because it's just held on by 3 tiny little ligaments, so that you can flex and do all these kind of things, and it's still semi-secure. And look at this. This is what's crazy. It almost looks like it has a sole on the bottom of the foot, but it's not. I'm literally 100% sure. I'm as close you can be certain as I can possibly be that this was just the guy's foot. And it wraps around, and it actually has this little thing in the front. I mean, it looks like it could have been a shoe. I don't know. Somebody's going to have to look at this better than me. But I think this is just all wrapped in hide, and it secures itself. That's what they did. This was in the Great Flood like everything else. And it died, I'm sure, on this side. Just like that. They all had one flat side. And even Caesar, my goose here, Caesar Augustus. There's his beak, there's a little hole they have in the front, and his eyeball was there. There's where his feathers were. They died in a spectacular manner as Venus almost hit Earth. And this is what drives them all crazy. They just can't accept these ancient stories had any factual basis. And it's time to examine them and discuss it. Maybe I'm totally wrong. I don't see how you could miss all of the anatomical features that I have just shown you, and all of the chemistry and everything else. It's at this point undeniable, and the people that are denying it are the ones that we trusted to teach us the truth. And now people are starting to question it. I just saw a video yesterday, so they're keeping us back. Is the educational system really forcing us to stay stupid? And it is. If you go against them, you're done. You won't get that piece of paper that says you're smart enough to repeat what they told you to say. And at that point, you're considered stupid by society, and you're not worthy of a good job. And no matter what you pay them, if you have any dispute with them, you better not say anything, because not only will they keep your money, they will destroy your life. So anyway, I think it's time to come back to reality. And again, this is the company that has apparently they had the sample to look at it, and they're ask an expert. Well, I'm asking, what did you find, my good friends at Eurofins? All right, I love you all. Let's see if we can get to the bottom of this.